Imagine holding a simple magnetic compass in your hand, a device humanity has trusted for centuries to point the way north. Today, February 24th, 2026, at precisely 9:15 UTC, that compass became a liar. For the first time in recorded history, the laws of geomagnetism, the very forces that guide migratory birds, ships, and satellites, were overridden. Reports from the USGS geomagnetism program and the European Space Agency's swarm satellites confirmed a global anomaly across the northern hemisphere with virtually zero probability of being a natural fluctuation. The compass needles didn't just wobble, they were pulled by exactly 14.3 degrees. And astonishingly, they all pointed at a single object, a comet named 3I Atlas, currently 240 million kilometers away. Pause and consider that for a moment. A comet, a distant chunk of ice and rock, exerting a magnetic influence across the vast expanse of space, strong enough to bend the compass needles of our entire planet. By every standard measure of physics, this should be impossible. Yet, the evidence is undeniable. When I first examined the World Magnetic Model updates, I assumed a software error, a glitch in sensors. But as physical reports flooded in pilots over the Atlantic, ships in the Pacific, scientists from Alaska to Norway, the realization hit, this wasn't a measurement error. The needles weren't drifting, they were being tugged toward a distant target. To understand the scale, consider that Earth's magnetic field, generated by the churning iron core deep beneath our feet, shields us from the solar wind. It's planetary in scale, a force measured across thousands of kilometers. And here was a small, distant comet, exerting a force that rivals, in effect, the dynamo of a gas giant compressed into a single point. The implications are staggering. If an object can remotely manipulate Earth's magnetosphere, it suggests an energy source or mechanism beyond anything humanity has encountered. NASA's Deep Space Network began continuous pings as the anomaly unfolded. By 10 UTC, the initial conclusions began to shift. This wasn't a random magnetic storm or a fleeting solar flare. This was a directed event, a controlled interaction. The compasses weren't just misaligned, they were effectively coerced. And this coercion began revealing something even more extraordinary. Comets, according to every textbook and model, are inert, dirty snowballs, mixtures of dust, rock, and frozen gases. They don't generate molten cores or planetary dynamos. They cannot project magnetic fields capable of spanning hundreds of millions of kilometers. And yet, every piece of data contradicted these assumptions. As the world's geomagnetic centers scrambled to explain the readings, solar flares were ruled out, coronal mass ejections dismissed, and sensor faults eliminated. NASA's magnetospheric satellites detected an external surge of 40,000 nanoteslas, laser-focused and originating directly from 3I Atlas. This is equivalent to the magnetic output of a planet condensed and projected in a single vector. Multiple independent instruments from ESA's swarm satellites to ground stations in Alaska, Norway, and Japan confirmed the phenomenon. The needles weren't erratic. They were precise. They were unified. One impossible conclusion emerged. 3I Atlas is not a simple comet. It is a magnetic anomaly of the highest order. By 11:30 UTC, the situation deepened. The magnetic field associated with the comet began to pulse rhythmically, not randomly, not chaotically, but in a strict 2-1 second cycle, 14 seconds of intense field strength, followed by 7 seconds of near-zero intensity. This repeating sequence has persisted for hours without deviation. Compare this to natural phenomena. Pulsars spin in milliseconds. Planetary dynamos fluctuate over centuries. Yet here was a square wave pattern in a comet, an unnatural precision that implies a mechanism, an engine, or perhaps an intelligence. Imagine a small magnet on your desk, suddenly strong enough to turn a compass needle across the room, and then cycling that strength on and off with the accuracy of a Swiss watch. That is exactly what 3I Atlas is doing to our planet right now. And the scientific community is responding with unprecedented urgency. Deep Space Network teams are no longer simply tracking the comet's trajectory, they are listening to its magnetic field itself, because in physics, a modulating magnetic field often carries information. The conservative models of solar wind, sensor error, and comet outgassing have all failed. Humanity is confronted with the impossible. By 1014 UTC, NASA's constellation of magnetospheric satellites picked up something even more astonishing. Normally, Earth's magnetic field fluctuates between 25,000 and 65,000 nanoteslas. What they detected was an external surge of 40,000 nanoteslas concentrated into a coherent beam directly aimed from 3I Atlas. Think about that. A comet, a cold, distant object, acting like a planetary generator, focusing its energy across space with the precision of a scientific instrument. And this wasn't an isolated reading. ESA's swarm satellites, 3 independent polar orbiting craft, corroborated the vector. Ground stations from Alaska to Norway verified identical deviations. 3 independent methodologies, 3 independent datasets, all pointing to a single conclusion: this is no ordinary comet. The anomaly didn't stop there. By 1130 UTC, the magnetic pulse exhibited a rhythmic oscillation, a highly structured sequence, 14 seconds of intense magnetic dominance, followed by 7 seconds of near-zero intensity, repeated consistently without deviation. Nature doesn't produce perfect square waves, not pulsars, not planetary dynamos, nothing. This is an engineered precision. It's as if the comet had a built-in clockwork controlling the field with mechanical consistency. For context, imagine a magnet so small it fits on your desk, suddenly strong enough to manipulate a compass across the planet, and then toggling that force on and off with absolute timing. That is exactly what 3I Atlas is doing. The implications are profound. Scientists across the globe scrambled to understand what this could mean. Internal communications from the Jet Propulsion Laboratory revealed that their deep space network wasn't just monitoring the object's trajectory, they were now analyzing the modulation of the magnetic field itself. In physics, modulated fields often carry information, functioning as a natural carrier wave. If 3I Atlas was generating a magnetic field this precise, it wasn't just affecting Earth, it could be transmitting data. Suddenly, a comet was no longer just a celestial body, it could be a technological entity. Even conservative astrophysicists, usually quick to dismiss anomalies, were forced to confront the impossible. Every simple explanation, solar flare, sensor glitch, natural cometary outgassing, failed. The comet was exerting forces, structured pulses, and energy siphons that no natural phenomenon could produce. Then the High-Frequency Active Auroral Research Program, HAARP, in Alaska, provided even more chilling evidence. They detected a flow of charged particles, not descending from space as usual, but ascending from Earth's ionosphere along the magnetic vector toward the comet. The planet was no longer just reacting, it was being drained of energy. To put this into perspective, the electrons stripped from Earth's upper atmosphere were traveling at speeds over 20,000 kilometers per second. The energy required to sustain this flux for hours is equivalent to the total electrical output of the United States for an entire week, and yet the comet's field wasn't collapsing. By 1320 UTC, radar in Norway confirmed that the flow rate had doubled. The comet wasn't merely maintaining its magnetic tether, it was strengthening it. This level of control and energy transfer is unprecedented. Spectral analysis revealed something equally astonishing. Comets typically emit water, carbon monoxide, and dust, yet 3I Atlas showed emission lines of ionized oxygen and nitrogen matching Earth's own atmospheric composition. It was as though the comet was siphoning material directly from our planet, selectively extracting the components it needed. The probability of a comet naturally having a magnetic resonance perfectly aligned with Earth's field is 0. It's akin to tuning a radio to an exact frequency instantly. 3I Atlas did it effortlessly. By 14 UTC, astronomers in Chile noticed the comet's rotation had stabilized. Previously, it had tumbled randomly, but now one face was permanently locked on Earth. This alignment, combined with the magnetic tether and electron siphon, suggested purpose and precision. The object's behavior was no longer random. It exhibited controlled orientation, energy extraction, and field modulation. Even the most conservative members of the International Astronomical Union described the event as anomalous and unprecedented. By 1542 UTC, the Deep Space Network detected something that shook the scientific community to its core. While scanning the magnetic flux tube connecting Earth and 3I Atlas, they didn't find random plasma fluctuations as expected. Instead, embedded within the 2-1 second magnetic pulse was a secondary signal at precisely 1.42 GHz. For radio astronomers, this number is chillingly significant. It corresponds to the hydrogen line, the so-called water hole, a universal frequency used for interstellar communication because hydrogen is the most abundant element in the universe. And here, it was a natural comet transmitting a coherent, amplitude-modulated signal on a frequency used as a universal communication channel. This signal was not random noise. It contained an unmistakable structure verified by the Allen Telescope Array at Hat Creek. The pattern wasn't binary, but a series of pulses arranged in prime number intervals 2, 3, 5, 7, 11, followed by a pause, and then repeating. Prime numbers are considered a universal hallmark of intelligence because they cannot be generated by natural astrophysical processes like pulsars or quasars. The odds of a comet accidentally generating a prime number sequence in its emissions are effectively 0.1 inch 10 to the 40th power. In scientific terms, that's impossible. Yet, here it was, repeating and growing stronger with each magnetic pulse. The correlation between the magnetic flux tube and the signal strength was direct and immediate. Each time Earth's ionosphere supplied electrons to the comet, the transmission amplified. It was almost as if 3I Atlas was using Earth's energy to power its own broadcast. The implications are staggering. If this is natural, it's a phenomenon humanity has never witnessed. If it's artificial, it could be a probe actively interacting with our planet, testing its magnetic and atmospheric properties, essentially conducting diagnostics on a planetary scale. At 1615 UTC, the United Nations Office for Outer Space Affairs officially declared a Level 2 event a status never before triggered in human history. This protocol signals the confirmed detection of a non-terrestrial techno-signature. Leaders of the G7 nations were immediately briefed, underscoring the gravity of the situation. Humanity was no longer observing a rock drifting through space. It was confronting a machine, or at the very least, a highly sophisticated probe. But the most unsettling data came moments later. HAARP in Alaska initiated a shutdown sequence at 1645 UTC, attempting to sever the magnetic tether. The response was immediate. 3. Atlas altered its transmission pattern. The prime number sequence ceased, replaced by a signal resonating precisely with Earth's Schumann cavity, the natural electromagnetic resonance of the planet itself. This was no longer a message to the universe, it was a direct communication aimed at Earth. The comet had locked on. Let that sink in. The sequence of events suggests deliberate, coordinated manipulation, magnetic alignment, electron siphoning, atmospheric sampling, rotation stabilization, and now planetary resonance communication. Each layer of activity reveals a level of precision that defies natural explanations. Scientists are scrambling to model how an object composed of ice and rock could achieve such feats, and the more data emerges, the clearer it becomes that conventional physics cannot account for what's happening. The implications extend beyond astrophysics. If this is a probe, it is not merely observing, it is harvesting energy and using Earth's own magnetic field as a conduit. The data shows that the comet's influence is increasing over time. With each cycle of the magnetic pulse, the electron flow intensifies and the transmission grows stronger. We are not witnessing a transient event or a brief flare. This is an active, sustained interaction on a planetary scale. In laboratories from Europe to North America, researchers are analyzing the emissions, the electron flow, and the magnetic modulations, trying to determine whether this interaction is purely mechanical, electromagnetic, or intelligent. Every simulation fails to recreate the observations. Every model, from solar wind dynamics to magnetospheric theory, falls short, and the realization is unavoidable. Humanity is facing a phenomenon that is not just rare, but unprecedented, something that bridges the gap between natural physics and technology, or perhaps intelligence. By 17 UTC, the data became even more alarming. HAARP's attempt to disrupt the magnetic tether only confirmed what scientists had feared. 3. Atlas wasn't just stable, it was actively controlling the connection. The charged particles moving along the magnetic flux tube from Earth to the comet weren't fluctuating randomly, they were responding to the comet's pulses with perfect synchronization. Electrons stripped from our upper atmosphere accelerated along the vector connecting Earth to 3I Atlas, a flow equivalent to several teravolts of potential energy. For perspective, this is an energy scale comparable to the total output of the United States for an entire week being siphoned from our planet in real time. And it wasn't decreasing. If anything, the extraction was strengthening. Meanwhile, the spectral analysis revealed an even stranger phenomenon. 3I Atlas was no longer emitting the usual cometary signatures of water, carbon monoxide, or dust. Instead, its spectrum was dominated by ionized oxygen and nitrogen, the primary components of Earth's own atmosphere. It was as if the comet was not merely interacting with our magnetic field, but harvesting material from our planet at a molecular level. The isotopic ratios match those of our upper atmosphere exactly. It is unprecedented in human history, a celestial body extracting energy and atmospheric components simultaneously across millions of kilometers of vacuum. Astronomers observing the comet's rotation added another layer of mystery. Previously tumbling randomly, the object's spin had stabilized, locking one face permanently toward Earth. Combined with the magnetic tether and electron siphoning, this suggested an intentional orientation. The comet was acting with purpose. Even the International Astronomical Union's most conservative members were forced to describe the event as anomalous and active. For the first time, scientists were forced to ask not what 3I Atlas was, but what it was doing. By 1745 UTC, the implications were undeniable. The comet's magnetic pulses were modulating in a pattern that corresponded with the electron flow from Earth. Every surge in our ionosphere appeared to amplify the signal sent back from the comet. If this is a natural process, it is a phenomenon we have never seen and cannot explain. If it is artificial, we are witnessing a probe or machine actively using our planet's energy to power itself. Either scenario defies conventional astrophysics. Internal communications from NASA and ESA show the urgency. Deep Space Network teams are analyzing the flux tube as a carrier wave. Laboratories worldwide are cross-referencing data to understand the electron siphoning and magnetic modulation. Every simulation fails. Every predictive model collapses. Humanity is confronted with a phenomenon at the intersection of astrophysics, technology, and perhaps intelligence. And while scientists grapple with the implications, the comet continues to operate with perfect precision, maintaining its tether, harvesting energy, and sending signals that grow stronger by the hour. The stakes are enormous. Unlike any previous cometary encounter, this event impacts Earth's fundamental systems. The magnetic field, the ionosphere, and atmospheric particles are all interacting with a distant object in a controlled, repeatable manner. This is not a brief anomaly. It is a sustained, structured, and intelligent seeming interaction. As the world watches, 3I Atlas has effectively transformed from a passive celestial body into an active participant in our planetary environment, a force that challenges everything we thought we knew about the cosmos. By 1815 UTC, the scientific consensus became clear. 3I Atlas is operating with astonishing control and efficiency. The previous prime number signals, initially observed in the hydrogen line frequency, had stopped, but now a new pattern emerged. The comet had shifted its carrier wave to match the Schumann resonance of Earth, our planet's natural electromagnetic heartbeat. This is no longer a message to distant observers. It is a direct interaction with Earth itself. The object is aligning with the planet, synchronizing its energy extraction and field modulation with Earth's electromagnetic resonance. What does this mean? The implications are staggering. By resonating with the Schumann cavity, 3I Atlas can communicate directly with Earth's electromagnetic system. The electron siphoning from our ionosphere is no longer just a power supply, it is feedback. Every pulse of energy accelerates the comet's transmissions as if the planet itself is part of a machine. Scientists have never observed a natural phenomenon capable of maintaining such coherence across millions of kilometers of space. The probability that this is accidental is effectively zero. Observatories worldwide confirm the continued stabilization of the comet's orientation. The same face remains locked toward Earth, suggesting not just gravitational or tidal effects, which would be negligible over this distance, but an active, purposeful alignment. This, combined with magnetic and energetic control, points to an unprecedented level of coordination, something that goes far beyond the capabilities of known natural phenomena. The comet is no longer a passive object. It is functioning with the precision of an engineered system. Global agencies are responding at an unprecedented level. UNEOSA has activated emergency protocols, briefing G7 leaders and coordinating scientific efforts worldwide. Laboratories from Japan to Europe are running simulations of magnetic flux tube dynamics, attempting to predict the comet's behavior. Even with advanced models, predictions fail. The behavior is unlike anything cataloged in planetary science, astrophysics, or space physics. Every mechanism we know, from solar-wind interactions to plasma dynamics, cannot account for the sustained energy extraction and modulation observed. By 1845 UTC, the data showed the system was intensifying. Electron flow rates were rising, magnetic pulses remained perfectly timed, and the new signal, now coupled with Earth's human resonance, indicated a deepening interaction. We are not merely observing an anomaly, we are witnessing a system that uses Earth as an active component. Every minute, the comet draws energy, aligns, and transmits, and humanity's instruments can only watch as the event unfolds. At this stage, the question facing scientists is no longer theoretical. 3I Atlas has crossed the line from natural object to active agent. Its magnetic field, energy extraction, and communication pattern show coherent purpose. Every observation confirms the same conclusion. This is either a probe of unprecedented sophistication or a natural phenomenon with capabilities that challenge the very laws of physics. Either way, humanity is now a participant in the process. By 1915 UTC, the final and most critical data arrived. Since HAARP's shutdown attempt at 1645 UTC, the comet's carrier wave had adapted to Earth's electromagnetic environment. The prime number sequence ceased, replaced by a signal in perfect resonance with the planet's human cavity. In effect, 3I Atlas was no longer broadcasting to the universe, it was directly communicating with our planet. The magnetic tether, the electron siphon, and the resonance alignment formed a single, continuous system. The implications are profound. Earth is no longer passive. Its energy and magnetic structure are integrated into a system controlled, or at least utilized, by an external entity. The comet is using planetary resources to maintain its magnetic flux, amplify transmissions, and sustain a coherent connection. It is impossible to overstate the scale of this phenomenon. No natural comet, no matter its size, could achieve this. No human-made system could remotely replicate it. Even the most conservative astrophysicists are forced to confront an uncomfortable possibility: intelligence. The prime number sequences, the coherent signal, the synchronization with Earth's resonance, the purposeful orientation, these are hallmarks of deliberate design. The comet is not tumbling, it is targeting. It is not drifting, it is harvesting. It is not random, it is controlled. Every observation points to the same conclusion. This is an active, intelligent system interacting with our planet in real time. Global monitoring continues. Deep Space Network teams, ESA satellites, and observatories from the northern to the southern hemisphere are fully operational, streaming live data. Every minute brings updates on electron flow, magnetic field strength, and spectral analysis. The object's behavior is consistent, controlled, and intensifying. The flux tube remains active, the magnetic pulses unwavering, and the signal now directly aligned with Earth's electromagnetic heartbeat. Humanity is witnessing a planetary-scale interaction, unlike anything in recorded history. The critical question remains: why is the comet siphoning energy and aligning with our magnetic field? Are we witnessing a diagnostic of our planet, a power harvesting operation, or a form of communication that we are only beginning to understand? Whatever the answer, the stakes are immense. Earth is no longer merely a backdrop in space. It is an active component of a system operated by a remote entity capable of harnessing planetary forces with precision beyond human comprehension. As you watch this unfold, remember one thing: this is not a drill. This is not science fiction. The data is verified, the protocols are activated, and the world is responding to a direct, active interaction with a celestial entity that defies every known law of physics. 3. iAtlas has locked on, and whatever its purpose, we are now part of the process. The clock is running, the observations are live, and humanity is witnessing a phenomenon that will redefine our understanding of the cosmos. Stay alert, stay informed, and watch closely as this story continues to unfold. Call to action. If you want to follow every update in real time, subscribe and turn on notifications. The universe just sent a message, and we are watching history in the making.